So can you go into that a little bit? What are some of the challenges that a PMU artist may face when working with tattooing on a client with trichotillomania or dermatillomania?
Sure. And before I answer that, I'm going to actually touch a little bit on what you said, Taryn, about how even though there is a procedure in the course, it's not a procedural course per se. That was done strategically because when we're working on trichotillomania and dermatillomania clients, we're working on clients who have a mental health disorder. That's what BFRBs are. They are categorized in the psychology book, the DSM-5, as a body-focused repetitive behavior, which falls on the spectrum of OCD, but it is not OCD. It's on the spectrum, but it's not the same. It's actually classified as an impulse control disorder. And the reality is that as artists, we shouldn't be working on difficult skin and damaged skin, such as what can happen as the result of someone picking or pulling at their skin, unless they have already got some really good experience in working in the skin. So I'm not, on my procedure video, I'm not teaching, like you said, a specific technique or talking about certain needles. I think I mentioned how I like to use, on that client, I was using a 5-round shader, and I do go into that a little bit, and I can also touch on that today. But the reality is that a brand new artist is not going to necessarily, or unless they aren't aware of it, they're probably not seeking out clients with damaged skin. They're trying to, kind of get their bearings straight and build their portfolio. But really, this course is for the artist who is already experienced, is already comfortable with needles, understands color theory, all of the things that are already out there. Of course, maybe they still are going to be doing some fine tuning with their craft, but the reality is that I'm not targeting people in this course who are trying to learn how to do eyebrows.
Exactly.
It's really for people who are looking to be able to help a whole new demographic with utilizing the proper language of BFRBs and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to throw that out there first because you touched on it, and you're exactly right. It has a procedure in it, but it's not a procedural course.
Yeah, but I watched the entire procedure, and it was interesting because you narrate through it.
Yes.
You narrate through it, and so it was interesting. No, it's not geared towards learning how to tattoo an eyebrow. But it was just a really interesting, Jill, like with your narrating, and they're going to learn like so many little nuggets with that video procedure, because it could have just been a theory course. You could have just kept with theory and explaining BFRBs and, proper grammar and everything that you go into, but you elevated the course by, filming yourself tattooing a pair of brows on a BFRB client. And so I thought that really elevated the course. So I was glad that you did it, that you do in that course. So I'm glad you clarified that too. It is on the OCD spectrum, but it's not considered OCD. It's considered a mental health issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people with trichotillomania and dermatillomania have OCD or OCD tendencies. I myself do, which ironically can come in handy when we're doing permanent makeup. They're different. So it is classified as an impulse control disorder because it's repetitive, right? It's a body focused repetitive behavior. So we have impulses and repetitive behavior going hand in hand in that case. So that's why it falls on that.
I was going to say, so it's the repetitive part that that puts it on this OCD spectrum, the repetitive, because of course I have some OCD issues as well as anxiety. I deal with, a lot of that stuff that I, maybe in the last year started speaking, openly about. And it's like a combination, right? Because you got the impulse and then you got the repetitive order. So, and I think it's really.
You had mentioned before some of the challenges that come up with when we're working on trick clients or derm clients that PMU artists face. I don't think I ever actually answered your question because I was talking about the procedure part. So
let's answer that. So I remember. So it was, what challenges can we expect or may experience when trying to implant? Let's start with that first, because there's other challenges that we can experience when they leave us and go off to heal. So so it's kind of a two-part question. So let's start with, what are the challenges we can expect to possibly deal with during the procedure, implanting the eyebrows during the procedure with a BFRB client?
So I think the number one thing that I would point out in this, which of course goes into detail in the course, is the skin. So we're working on skin that has experienced trauma. And I understand, and of course PMU artists have worked on clients that have skin trauma in all kinds of capacities. The difference with trichotillomania and dermatillomania is that the trauma isn't like a one-time thing and then it's healing. This is repetitive, right? So we're talking about, there was hair pulled out in the brow area, for example, and the hair comes back, but then that hair is probably going to continue to get pulled out. So we're talking about the repetitiveness of the hair pulling, which is causing skin trauma, skin damage.
Can I ask you a question? I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're fine.
What is it? Is it that they're pulling and the bulb, the root bulb, is being removed through the hair follicle? What actually causes the trauma and the damage to skin by pulling out hair? I think I know the answer, but I mean, you're so brilliant and elegant in your answers that I would really like for you to answer that question.
Sure. So the easiest way to answer that is simply the fact that hair has growth cycles, right? So when someone with trichotillomania is pulling out that hair, they're never allowing the hair growth to fully come back before they're pulling it out again, which is causing, when that root comes out, it's damage, damage, damage over and over and over. So by pulling it out without actually allowing the skin to heal first is what's going to continuously cause damage in the same spot. So again, body-focused repetitive behaviors, if we just think about it as the word repetitive, 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 it's not only the behavior itself or the action of the pulling, but what's happening to the skin is repetitive. What's happening when that individual is pulling out their eyebrows, and I can attest to this because I have, of course, had my eyebrows tattooed. I'm a brow and a lash puller. The oils on our skin are constantly breaking down that pigment when we're pulling and we're rubbing. We're kind of rubbing, trying to find. So you have to imagine when somebody has trich and that hair has not fully grown back yet in the brow, they're searching for it. They're kind of rubbing in that area to find that little stubble. Imagine if you shave your legs and you have that little stubble. It's like you're trying to get that stuff, and they will find it and they'll pull it out again. And again, that hair is not even grown back. So the skin was already traumatized from the last time it was pulled. It's in the middle of another growth cycle, but it's not done. It's being pulled out again in a lot of cases, not always, but in a lot of cases. It's just repetitive trauma. So that is what I would consider the biggest challenge as a permanent makeup artist. And what that does, that skin trauma, as you know, it makes it harder to implant skin. Color can be affected. The longevity of the tattoo can be affected. You're going to have somebody that's going to come in and they're going to have worked with, their coworker who had their brows done by you and had the best results, but this person has trichotillomania and they might be expecting that same result.
Right.
So as an artist, what I cover in this course is how do you have those conversations and set the biggest component is clear and realistic expectations for that client so that they understand that it's going to be a little bit different.
Right.
The process, the healing process itself is a trigger for pulling even more, what to do in those situations, how to handle it if there's not good retention, all of that kind of stuff.
And I have a good friend, and we didn't bring this up on the live because it didn't dawn on me, but I do have a good friend that pulls, but in the chin section. And when she sees that it's dark again, I mean, she'll take tweezers and go
Yes.
digging for it. So,
Yes.
so it's true that maybe a certain percentage don't even wait until they can easily grab it with tweezers or fingers, but they'll just kind of even dig and try to move some skin aside to get in there a little bit and get it, and that can cause even more and cause sores, scabs,
Yes.
you know, even more
Yes.
skin damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So there's all
I-
levels.
Yeah,
Right, there's all
because
levels.
when you're pulling, you might not just be pulling up hair, but you might and causing trauma to the skin, but there could be bleeding.
Oh,
There
yes.
could be all kinds of things. And with your friend too, sometimes if people are going that far, it could also be a touch of dermatillomania too, which is, you know, skin picking. And
Right.
again, that topic is also really covered in the course. There are a lot of people who have both dermatillomania and trichotillomania. And even though the three most common areas are scalp, brows, and lashes for pulling,
Right.
but the reality is if someone has trick, they might pick any hair or pull at any hair on their body. Anywhere,
Anywhere on the body. Right,
anywhere.
right.